If you grew up in the 60s, so many of the great songs on the radio included a 12-string guitar. The jangly signature sound was featured on so many of the 60s groups like the Byrds, the Beatles, the Animals, the Rolling Stones. Even Carl Wilson with the Beach Boys played a Rickenbacker 12-string. Rickenbacker became the iconic 12-string guitar of the day, used by guitar legends like George Harrison and Roger McGuinn. But Rickenbacker guitars were always expensive and out of reach for a lot of people, including myself. The other thing about Rickenbacker is the neck is very narrow, and if you've got chubby fingers like mine, it's practically impossible to play cleanly on. The narrow space between the strings makes it really difficult for anyone who doesn't have pencil-thin fingers. Consequently, I never had a Rickenbacker 12-string, even though I would have loved to have one, and came close a few times. But now Squier has entered the market with the Paranormal series Jazzmaster XII, and at just under $450, it's pretty affordable. It's hard to beat Squier when it comes to bang for your buck, and the Squier Jazzmaster XII is no exception. I ordered mine online at Guitar Center because at the time they were the only dealer that had them in stock and they could ship it out immediately. They also offered a 10% discount online, so the price of $449 was reduced $45, and that made the guitar right around $400 before tax. That's pretty amazing, but I was buying sight unseen and I didn't know if it was really any good. So I ordered the guitar online on a Tuesday with free shipping, and the guitar arrived the next day. I don't know how they do that, but it was a nice surprise. The guitar was packaged in a single cardboard box, but it was packed well. There's no gig bag or case, as you can guess, for this price. I unboxed and unwrapped the guitar, and I was pleasantly surprised at the fit and finish. Okay, so far so good. The setup on it was a little high for me, but it played well and it was almost in tune right out of the box. As I tuned it up, I noticed the tuning keys seemed to have a much higher ratio than a standard Fender or Squier tuning key. And by that I mean it takes more turns to complete one revolution on the string pull. That's a good thing because it allows you to have much more control to fine-tune each string of the guitar. The weight of my guitar was just under 8 pounds, which is a little heavier than I'd like. But it's well balanced, and even with the large headstock, it doesn't neck dive on a strap. And with the contoured body cut, it sits very comfortably. The body is made out of poplar, which is really not a hardwood. Poplar is also not the most acoustically exciting wood, but mine rings out nicely, and it's very acoustically resonant. According to the comments I've seen online, this is not a 1 or 2 piece body. It's probably more like a 5 or 6 piece body from what I understand. And I've heard others say that you might be able to see the sections under certain lights. Maybe I don't have the right kind of light or my eyes aren't as good as they used to be, but I don't see any signs of sections on my guitar. The polyurethane finish on the body is as good as any other Fender I've seen, and I didn't find any chips or cracks or problems in the finish. I love the Olympic white color with the tortoiseshell pickguard, and the tortoiseshell pickguard has just the right amount of transparency on it to make it interesting. The maple neck has a nice center grain to it, and it has a gloss finish. Even though it's a gloss finish, it doesn't feel sticky to me, and the C shape is very comfortable to play, even with my chunky hands. And unlike the Rickenbacker, the neck is wide enough that I can actually play it. The 1.65-inch nut allows enough space between the strings for my chubby fingers to fit without muting out adjacent strings. I am really happy about that. Laurel wood would not be my first choice for a fretboard, but I get it. It's much more cost-effective than rosewood. And I understand, on a budget guitar, Squier has to cut costs somewhere. The difference I notice with a Laurel fretboard is that it has more of a gray color and it has a rougher texture. The rosewood feels and looks darker, and the grain is tighter. The good news is I have my little Minwax stain marker pen, and it works great for darkening up the wood on fretboards. Here's the before and after pictures. Everyone complains how ugly the hockey stick headstock is. I don't mind it. In fact, I like it. The top crook is not as pronounced as the original 60s Fender 12-string, and it's really long because it has to be. You've got 6 tuners per side, and as it is, the tuning keys are still a little close together. Sometimes it's hard to squeeze your fingers between the tuning keys to turn them, but that's really a minor complaint. The frets are listed by Fender as tall narrow, but they're not that tall, which is a good thing. I would normally prefer jumbo frets, but on a 12 string, the bigger frets tend to make the strings go sharp as you push your finger down. So there's an advantage really to the smaller frets on the 12 string. The neck is reinforced with graphite, which seems to work because it does do a pretty good job of staying in tune. Granted, there are 12 strings to tune, but it does stay in tune better than the Rickenbackers I've played, which are a nightmare to keep in tune. The setup from the factory was a little too high for me, and the first thing I did was use the small Allen wrench included with the guitar to lower the bridge saddles. The bridge has adjustable saddles for each string, so you can intonate every string. The main 6 strings are mounted through the body, and the octave strings are top mounted to the bridge. The pickups sound good, although I'm curious to hear what a difference better pickups would make. I've ordered some Fender Pure Vintage 65 Jazzmaster pickups to try out. I might do a separate review on those pickups. The output of the pickups are 6.65 for the neck pickup, 4.22 for the middle position, and a whopping 11.3 for the bridge pickup. The bridge pickup is much hotter than the neck pickup, and it's probably a good idea to lower the bridge pickup to balance them out better. The hi-hat style volume and tone knobs have the look of the vintage ones and are screwed on instead of being just pressed on. The 3-way switch is mounted to the pickguard and seems solid enough. I did see a review where someone had a problem with the 1/4-inch input jack. The jack was giving them some problems and the wiring had come loose and needed repair. Fender paid for the service and it worked out that they got an upgraded input in the repair. Just be aware that the electronics are not the highest quality. In order to make a guitar at this price, they have to save money somewhere, and electronics are easily upgradable. And think of all the fun you'll have upgrading all the parts. Okay, let's take a look under the hood and see what the electronics look like. I was surprised to find that there was no shielding paint in the body cavities. I have a Squier Classic Vibe Strat and a Tele, and they both have shielding paint. The only shield is a small strip of foil under the pickguard connecting the volume, tone, and input jack. The wiring looks okay. The pots are full size, but I don't recognize the brand. The 3-way switch looks okay, but the input jack does look a little weak. That's probably the first thing I'd replace. The pickups are factory installed with opposite poles to each other. You can see the wires come off the far side of the neck pickup and come off the close side on the bridge pickup. There's 2 strips of rubber on the underside of the pickup to cushion the mount, but it feels like a dense neoprene rubber and doesn't really give very easily. In order to lower the pickups a little more easily, you might want to consider a lower density foam. The pickups are mounted with 4 screws and springs which tend to fall off when you pull the pickup out. I would rather have a piece of surgical rubber in place of the spring because it would stay in place and make it much easier to install or remove the pickups. Getting the pickups back in and trying to hold the screws and springs while you lower it into the body cavity is a real trick. The bridge pickup is much hotter than the neck pickup, and you can see here it looks like almost twice the winding on the bridge pickup. Okay, here's some audio samples, and unlike a lot of other YouTube video reviews out there, I'm not going to include any overdrive or gain pedal audio samples. You can check other reviews for that. To me, the sound of the 12-string is that clean, jangly, chimey sound, so here goes. I'm really knocked out with this guitar. I think Fender has done a great job of putting together a nice quality instrument at a really affordable price. And I know there's a lot of guys like me who would love to have a 12-string electric for recording or playing live, but for one reason or another just couldn't find the right one. Let's face it, a 12-string is not an everyday guitar, so it's hard to justify spending thousands of dollars for one. But now I think you've got a really good choice. I think the combination of the Jazzmaster body and the 12-string neck looks great. And it still feels and plays like a Fender, so it's still very comfortable to hold and strap on your shoulder and play. Yes, there are some things I'd like to see improved on. To me, the bridge pickup is too hot and gritty sounding. I lowered it and that improved the tone a little, but I'd love to try a set of Fender Pure Vintage 65 Jazzmaster pickups to see what kind of difference that would make in the sound. I'd probably change out the input jack right away and maybe eventually the potentiometers. And it would be nice to have CTS pots and higher quality components. I'm also going to try some different strings. A lot of purists from the Rickenbacker school prefer flat wound strings, like the Pyramid Gold or the Rickenbacker strings, which are both really expensive. It's been a long time since I played flat wound strings, but I might give it a try. The action is still not as low as I'd like it. I did adjust the truss rod, and it was a bit of a challenge. I used the included truss rod wrench, but it was really difficult to turn. The adjustment is in kind of an awkward space to fit the wrench in because of the string placement and the metal tension bar that's in the way. In fact, I thought at first that the truss rod nut was torqued down as far as it would go because I couldn't budge it. But finally, with a little more pressure, it kind of broke free and did turn. I think the difficulty was maybe some of the polyurethane had locked the nut, and when I tried to turn it, it was kind of sealed to the guitar. Once it turned, I was able to put about a quarter turn on the neck, and I believe the relief is correct at this point. I still want the action a little lower, so the next step would be to put a shim under the neck to adjust the angle. And I might leave that job to a proper luthier. There's really not much to complain about with this guitar, especially for the money. In fact, I love this guitar so much, I actually ordered another one in Fiesta Red. It was a limited run available only when ordering directly from Fender online, and there was a 10% promotional discount, so the price was closer to $400. I love the Fiesta Red color, and I just couldn't resist it. Yeah, I know, I went from never owning a 12-string electric to now having two of them. How much will I end up actually playing my 12 strings? Well, I'm excited about finally having the sound of a 12-string for my recording and playing live. And since I'm heavily influenced by 60s music, I'm sure it will be showing up on my tracks. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the music in this video, please take a listen to some of my tunes. Just say, play Brooks Reed music on any smart device. I'm not sponsored, and all the equipment I review I purchase with my own money. It would be great if somebody wanted to send me some free stuff, but until then, I'm grateful for all the positive comments and everyone who enjoys the reviews.